To order this meeting of the Stratford Town Council on Monday, April 11th, 2016 at 8:02 p.m. We will start with the invocation. That's the responsibility of Representative Joe Gresco, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Gresco?
In the interest of professionality, I defer to Councilman Hardin.
Oh, gracious Father, we thank you for another opportunity to come and express the concerns in a respectful and responsible manner to the council. We ask that you bless us in order to make the right decisions. We ask that we all leave here with you on our minds and a gracious heart. We ask that you give us the strength and the courage to make decisions, not by force, but by common knowledge and supporting details. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Hardin. The next thing on our agenda, the first thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the March 31st.
I second.
I'm sorry, and who was that second? Okay, Mr. Hardin. Okay, discussion? Second. No discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, the council votes aye. The motion passes 10-0. Ceremonial presentations and awards, as far as I know, there are none tonight? Right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Council members' response to comments from the public forum which preceded this meeting. Mr. Duma, we will start with you.
First of all, I'd like to, as always, thank everybody for coming out. I will say it's important that you come out, and I'm going to point something out here that it may just be me, but I think the crowd is thinning out a little bit. So I would like, tell your neighbors to, keep coming, stay engaged, and keep us honest. In terms of the actual comments, I'll keep this kind of brief. Shakespeare, that's very important. We'll find out what we're doing tonight. I think my opinion has been pretty well stated. I want to get this theater open. I don't think the Stratford Stage Group will be able to do that effectively. But whoever does it, whether it's them or someone else, I want, once we approve them, to get this open as soon as possible. That's a priority. I'll leave it at that for today.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kadim?
Thank you very much. First thing I want to say is just thank you very much for coming out in general. It's raining out there. You have other things you can do. It's very important that you stay engaged in your community. Speak up, fight. Don't turn away. Don't be afraid. Thank you so much for coming out, and God bless you guys, and keep on moving forward, because Stratford really needs a shot in the arm. A lot of projects are stuck in the mud. We have to move them forward, really and truly. Once again, thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kadim. Mr. Hardin?
Once again, I'd like to follow my fellow council members and say thank you for coming out. Thank you for taking valuable time out of your evening schedule to come and voice your concerns. And as I always say, your concerns never fall on deaf ear. For those who don't know, being a councilman is a daunting task, especially when you have department heads who do not answer you or return phone calls and drop the ball. This is a new era. Time has changed drastically, and it may be not as quickly as the people who have lived here for 40 years and have seen the same faces and had the same names and the same addresses. Things are changing, and the most difficult task is getting used to change. I want to respond to several comments that people have made about the Stratford Stage Group twisting our arms and pushing us against the wall. I am an independent thinker. My decisions are based on supporting details and what I feel may be right for the town. People voted for me because I made good decisions. People voted for me because they thought that what I would do would be right and not convenient. Change is different, and we have to get used to that. We sit here and we complain about everything that needs to be done and everything is not right. But some of the people that complain are the ones that I call and ask for support, and they say no, they don't have time. So I'm asking the ones that complain to help us make the right decisions. Give us supporting details. Give us facts. So when we do make a decision, we're not basing it on hearsay and backdoor politics and backdoor deals. We are standing up for what's right, and no one is twisting our arm. We are not responsible for the decisions that were made prior to us coming on. It's a difficult decision. We've given the Stratford Stage Group the stipulations in which we wanted, and they came back and gave us what we asked them to do. Every decision that we make is not going to be a great decision. There are going to be some setbacks financially. There are going to be several setbacks, and we have to deal with that. Please don't punish us for making a decision that we think is right. How many decisions have we made in our lives that backfired on us? Several. We have to change the culture of this town, the way things are done, and the only way to do that is to take a chance on anything that we do. And guess what? I've been here for 50 years. I'm scared to make a change. I'm scared to make a move. We have to do it. I was scared to make a move to be a councilman. I enjoy being home with my family at night, enjoying dinner, going on vacation. I don't get paid to do this, but I have compassion for the town and its residents. I have respect for the area that I live in. So I'm asking you to do the same thing. Have compassion for the job that we do and help us do it so we can do it well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hardin. Mr. Gresco.
I would say to everyone, thank you for coming out, and apologize, unfortunately, once again for not making it here in time, and to echo Councilor Hardiman's feelings. It's not easy, but we're trying our best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gresco. Mr. Young?
Again, thank you very much for coming out, everybody. I would like, as Mark said, to see more people come out, so try to do it. Try to get more folks out. The biggest thing talked about was Shakespeare Theater. I think that tonight probably something will happen, and I'm looking forward to it. And I want to get something done here within my term and get the theater going. So.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anteza.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I won't say anything more. I want to get out of here before midnight.
Mr. Chase.
I, too, want to thank you for coming out. I just have one comment to make. One of the speakers, I believe it was Mr. Watson, said that he felt that funds should be used to upgrade the theater, to get it into shape, to use his words. I wasn't sure whether he was talking about the town upgrading the theater so that it could be used, but I would like to state that with a 7.5% budget increase and a 5% tax increase, I don't think the funds are going to be available to do that this year and possibly next year. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes, again, thanks to everyone for coming out. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things real quick. It was really nice to have a meeting tonight and have it be beaver-free and no more high school business. So it's kind of a refreshing change. And then I was also very glad to see that SSG is kind of going to leave the Mighty Quinn Foundation to operate on its own in the White House. I think that was a really big sticking point for all of us. And then I also want to thank Councilman Dumas for keeping the remark issue on the radar screen. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Llewellyn. Ms. Manis?
I wanted to thank you all for coming, and also to quote Mr. Hardin, to take a chance. He said something that we don't get paid and we're volunteers here, but I don't agree with that. I get paid every day with the love and the trust of the people in this community. You took a chance on me, and I hope I'm making you proud, and I hope that I'm fighting for you. And I'm very, very happy to hear that the White House is off the table with regards to SSG. It made my night. I'm also really excited about the people who did get up and speak and the collective voice. One of the things that came up in the conversation was Ms. Wright mentioned the 99-year lease, but the employees, when she mentioned that, she said employees, volunteers, and town employees coming together with whatever group is part of SSG or is part of whatever group comes forward. I want to remind everybody that with the grant, and I want to make sure that all stakeholders are included, no matter what group moves forward or what we do, that we collectively work together. If I have to tie you together and make you love each other, I will. The other part of that is where I learned it, is through the In the Spotlight program. I want to thank the Rooneys for taking that program on. I think Tammy Trojanowski and the work at Community Service should be a part of whatever happens at Shakespeare, because they made theater work long before everybody else. And the things I learned through that program brought me here today. And they make this work easy. I don't find it hard to sit up here and talk to you. I don't find it hard to represent you. I find it rewarding and fulfilling because it's a challenge, and I like it. And theater taught me that. And so I think that all of the groups, the town groups, the employees, and the volunteers, we need to come together and build coherence and a unified vision and plan. However that happens, I think it's starting to happen, and that's very, very exciting. So I want to thank you guys for coming out, and let's get the show on the road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chairman?
Wait.
Go ahead.
And the comment I'd like to respond to is Mr. Yates' comment about the connection charges. We'll look into exactly how that works, and we should have a response back to you. And regarding the Shakespeare Theater, please trust that we will take a very thoughtful approach to this. Okay, on that.
Madam Chairman?
Okay, yes, Mr. Chase.
Under Communications, I move we approve the resignation of Roseanne Neary from the Beautification Committee.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that? Second. Okay, thank you. All in discussion? All in favor of approving the resignation of Ms. Neary from the Beautification Committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I
Mr.
move
Chase.
that we accept the resignation of Vincent Mazzi Jr. from the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission.
Okay, thank you. Is there a
Madam
second
Chair,
to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dumas. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes 10-0. Okay, Mayor's report.
Madam Chair, I have a motion.
I'd recognize the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a motion, Madam Chair. I am moving to waive the rules to amend the agenda.
You aren't recognized right now. The chair is
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The mayor is recognized.
Thank you. Just for some announcements to the Town Council, Wade's Garage, which Councilman Hardin's district, located on 2370 Stratford Avenue, is now a town-owned property. It was taken by the town through tax foreclosure. The back taxes owed to the town are in excess of $45,000. Mr. Wade has been evicted, and all the junk cars have been removed. The town will begin testing the soil in mid-April. The town will do a Phase 1 and Phase 2 with EPA Petroleum Assessment Grant money. Once the property is clean, the plan is to go to an RFQ and RFP for a developer to reuse the property. For those of you that get the Fairfield County Business Journal, many people who own companies get this in Westchester County and Fairfield County. The town of Stratford was just highlighted in a full page by this newspaper. And basically, it recognized Stratford for its smart growth at an event this month at Pace University. It was actually at their law school. And one of the comments they made was that Stratford stands out as a business-friendly community that has attracted top employers. The town of Stratford was one of the top towns in the state in terms of new jobs created and jobs retained. The unemployment rate in Stratford is at 5.4%, down from 9.2% in 2012. While the rest of the state sees companies moving out because of the economic climate, Stratford is showing signs of economic strength. So I thought that was a very favorable article towards our community, and we appreciate the recognition. The Complete Streets Improvement Plan. There'll be a public information session on April 19th for those of you that want to participate. It's going to be at Town Hall here in the council chamber, and they're going to talk about the Complete Streets Improvement Plan. A technical advisory and community advisory have been set up and formed. This is being paid for a grant by the State of Connecticut Office of Policy and Management, and we've received $200,000 from the State of Connecticut to do this. As you know, we received $2.85 million to remove contract plating. It's a 10.5-acre site. We're still in the process of remediating that site, and construction is ongoing. Hubble Electric hot water heaters, you saw that, Joe? Yeah. Is expanding in Stratford. With this expansion, they'll be adding more than 30 new employees. They currently have 75. Hubble also received a grant loan from the state of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development for $2.1 million to support this growth and job creation. Hubble is a third-generation company in Stratford, and they have been to the zoning office with their draft plans to expand their property on Seymour Avenue. Mercer Coal Towers is also still in the process of being cleaned up. Two Roads Brewing Company, for those of you that like Two Roads, they are expanding their footprint on Stratford Avenue. The company has recently closed on the former Baird property, abutting their current property at 1526 Stratford Avenue. The new property is approximately 3 acres. Burns Construction is expanding in Stratford at their Access Road location. Burns plans to hire 175 new employees in 2016. They've been in Stratford since the 1960s and has grown to more than 380 employees. Burns is in the process of building a new facility on Access Road and has already improved the area by planting trees along Access Road. Lockheed Martin was able to have dinner with the new president, Dan Schultz, with both our U.S. senators. The relationship is strong. The union is very happy with the fact that Lockheed has taken over Sikorsky, and I sense that Lockheed is going to have a big role in place here in the town of Stratford. So they look forward to being here in Stratford. Very encouraging. Also, 576 Sundrick East Broadway, the EPA Superfund site, which was recently foreclosed. The developer has been selected, and work will be moving forward at that property soon. On another note, the Houstonic River cleanup will be held on Saturday, May 7th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Birdsey Boat Ramp in Stratford. It's a great event. We have a lot of volunteers come out. And if you have some time, please join us down there and help clean up our town. We have about 400 volunteers each year. Last year, these volunteers removed about 11 tons of garbage from our riverbanks. So all are welcome to participate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, the next part is appointments, mayoral appointments.
Yes, I only have one this evening, Madam Chair, and it's the appointment of Michael Bingham to the Historic District.
As an alternate or as a regular?
As an alternate.
Okay.
I'd ask that his name be moved forward.
Okay, thank you.
I would move that.
Michael Bingham.
I move that we approve the appointment of Michael Bingham to the Historic Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I second.
Okay. Discussion? Ms. Manis?
Michael Bingham, is he currently a member or was he currently an alternate? I just want to. Is he a member? He's
Yes.
a member, so he's being moved to an alternate position?
Yes.
No.
As a point of information, he is currently an alternate.
Alternate.
Okay.
He's staying an alternate.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's still staying as an alternate. I stand corrected.
Okay. Any other discussion on that point? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion passes 10-0.
I have no other appointments at this time, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. The next item on the agenda is
Committee report.
committee reports. Yes, I'm sorry. Is committee reports.
Madam
The
Chairman?
public, yes, Mr. Chase.
Okay, under Public Works Committee, first item on the agenda is A, Broadbridge Avenue Bridge. This project is to replace the northern barrel of this twin culvert. The contractor, Dolan Construction, has planned to start construction mid-October, but would not commit until he had to he could confirm the delivery date of the precast culvert units. The Dolan Construction was asked for a cost proposal to resurface the adjacent sidewalk and curb that are to be left in place in the current plans. There is a continuous new curb and sidewalk in the end. The existing parapet wall would be left in place. The contractor was quoted $17,075.44 to perform the work. Madam Chairman, I would move that we approve the recommendation of the Public Works Committee as accepted in the amount of $17,075.44 for the Broadbridge Avenue Bridge project.
Second.
Okay, there's a second for that. Is there an amendment? Is there a motion to amend that? Mr. Young?
There has been a modification. The head of John Casey from the engineering department, we asked him in Public Works Committee to see what he could do about a price on that, and he was able to get it reduced to $15,535.44, saving us roughly $1,500. Thank you very much, Mr. Casey.
Can you repeat that number? Rather than $17,075.44, the new number is?
$15,535.44.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Casey.
So we saved the town a couple thousand. Is there a motion to, so Mr. Young has made a motion to amend Mr. Chase's motion. Is there a second to Mr. Young's? Second. Okay. Discussion. All in favor of the amendment to the main motion?
Some discussion.
I'm sorry.
There's some discussion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't know if Mr. Gresko had any. He did raise his hand before I did.
On behalf of the 5th District and 6th District, thank you.
Madam Chair, I voted against this in Public Works. I think it's a worthwhile project. If the state was paying the bill, I would support it. But there is a point where we have to start drawing the line on bonding money. That's a big part of the tax burden that we pay. And this is one spot where I'm going to draw that line, although I think it's an admirable
I just want to remind you, Mr. Dumas, we're discussing the amendment of going from $17,000 to $15,000. Do you want to discuss that amendment?
I just stated what I wanted to state anyway,
okay.
So we don't need to go over it again.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
We received an addendum to the agenda, and there's no mention in this addendum that the amount was changed. I'm not arguing that we shouldn't approve it for $15,000, but in the future, I would hope that the council members would be given the appropriate information before we act.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. That information came in very late. Very late. So rather than approving the wrong amount, we're discussing the amendment that would approve the right amount, so we don't give the company too much money for doing a project.
Obviously.
Obviously. Okay. Can we, all in favor of the amendment to the motion, say aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now let's vote for the main motion, which is to accept the recommendation of the Public Works Committee. Is there a discussion on that? Yes, Ms. Manis.
Do we have a roll of who voted for and against this from the Public Works Committee? Do we know what there are a lot of people on that have some knowledge with Public Works.
I believe, Ms. Manis, that would have been in the minutes of that meeting. And Ms. Cabral is pulling up those minutes currently.
I can tell you.
Thank you.
Councilor DePonte, Young, Kadim, Chase, and Llewellyn voted in favor, and I voted against it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion passes 9-1. Thank you. Now we're on 5.2.1B. Okay.
Madam
Okay,
Chairman?
Mr. Chase?
Madam Chairman, 5.2.1B is the Stratford Avenue Roundabout and Honey Spot Improvement. This project is designed for streetscape traffic and roadway improvements from Honey Spot Road at Route I-95 to Stratford Avenue, including a roundabout intersection improvement at Stratford Avenue. The design is funded by the town, and construction will be funded by the LoSIP grant. That's a state grant. Since the UI company is ready to start construction on a major project on Stratford Avenue, it is imperative that the town engage a consultant to design the road project in coordination with these other planned improvements. BL Companies is recommended, who was rated the highest in the interview. Resolved that the recommendation of the Public Works Committee is accepted and the BL Companies be and hereby engaged to design the road project as described above. Madam Chairman, I so move.
Mr. Chase, I just want to point out that if you look at the addendum to the agenda, there is further information on that resolution. There's a monetary amount.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, I see. And that further, the design road project in the amount of $193,000 as described above. I amend and move my motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 9-1. Okay. We are now on 5.2.1C, and if you look at the addendum to the agenda, there was
Madam
an
Chair, as a
addendum
point of
to this.
procedure, are we voting on the amendment there or the motion?
The motion had never
primary
been fully made, so we had voted on the motion.
Madam Chairman, I move the question.
Yes.
Which question?
Wait, for what?
I thought we just voted on the amendment.
That's what I thought as
Right.
well.
So now we're going to move, so therefore I move to vote on the amended version for the roundabout on Stratford Avenue.
Okay, but I don't think we need to do that because before you had, your motion hadn't even gotten a second.
Ah,
So,
how's that, Mark?
okay? We're good?
Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Now we're on 5.2.1C, Light Street and Canaan Road. And if you look at your addendum to the agenda, the resolution was resolved somewhat. Okay?
That one.
Yes, Mr. Gresko.
Light Street and Canaan Road Bridge Deck Replacement, Construction Contract Award, Consultant Contract Amendment. Bids have been received for the replacement of the bridge deck on these two bridges over Bruce Brook. Funding is from the town bonds and in part from LoCIP funds. If both projects awarded together, there is a credit for the bid. Recommended construction inspection services proposal from the engineer, Anchor Engineering, is budgeted. And so, resolved that the recommendation of the Public Works Committee is accepted and that construction engineering services from Anchor Engineering is accepted in the amount not to exceed $85,000, and that Guerrera Construction, go Tony, B, is hereby awarded the contract as described above in the amount of $625,000.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Okay, Mr. Young seconds. Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion passes 9 to... No. Okay, let's do roll call vote. Mr. Dumas?
No.
No.
Yes.
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 No.
And the chair votes yes, so the motion passes 7-3. Did I do that right? Okay, thank you. We're now at 5.2.1D, which is only in the amended agenda.
Madam Chairman?
Okay? Yes, Mr. Chase.
Madam Chairman, I move, this is the Bruce Avenue Railroad Underpass Drainage. This project will separate the storm trunk sewer from the localized underpass drainage piping so that when the trunk is flowing full, it won't back up through the underpass catch basins. This bid, the bids have been received on this project as follows. NAC Industries, $178,600. Darling Construction, $182,815. Dayton Construction, $233,985. And Guerrera Construction, $337,322.50. Madam Chairman, the recommendation of the Public Works Committee is accepted that NAC Industries, the low bidder, B, and is hereby awarded the contract as described above in the amount of $178,600.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Chase's resolution? Motion?
Second, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So there was a first and a second. Discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that motion passes 10-0. Thank you. Now we're at section 5.2.2, report from the Building Needs Committee. Okay, the Building Needs Committee referred the following to Council with favorable recommendation from their regularly scheduled meeting, and it's the Stratford High School Renovation Subcommittee finds it necessary to have an auditorium consultant for the project due to the specialized equipment and acoustics. The amount of $34,500 for the consultant is already budgeted.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn.
Thank you. As it is resolved that the recommendation of the Building Needs Committee is accepted and an auditorium consultant for the Stratford High School renovation project in the amount of $34,500 be and is here approved, I make a motion that we accept.
I
Thank you.
second it.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Llewellyn, seconded by Mr. Harden. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'd just like to explain that the cost for this consultant was already included within Antonazzi's contract, and the reason why this motion is before the council tonight is because the award amount is above $5,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion, Ms. Manis?
So, through the chair, if I can ask Mr. Llewellyn, does that mean that this is also part of the 60% reimbursement that we're receiving?
That is correct, Councilwoman Manis. As is the case with all costs included within the project, they all fall under that 60-40 split.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 10-0. Okay, the next thing is 5.2.2b, abatement for window flashing at Huntington Road Firehouse, worth $7,700. The contractor, THP. The scope of work is to establish containments and properly abate asbestos tar paper at 22 locations, which is the interior sill of the existing windows.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Chase.
I move we accept the recommendation of the Building Needs Committee and the THP be and is hereby selected as the project is selected for the project in the amount of $7,700 as described.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Chase, seconded by Ms. Manis. Discussion?
Madam Chair, is a request for a point of information. I'm not sure who it should be directed to, as the chair isn't a member of the council, but did this go out to bid?
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn.
Madam Chair, to address Councilman Dumas' concern, this did not go out to bid. This is a change order to an existing contract, and the reason why it has been processed as a change order is because this additional abatement work is referenced to the interior sill, and there's no way of knowing that an interior sill is contaminated until you remove the exterior and work inward to get to it. Correct. So basically it's a field condition. It was unknown at the time the work was bid.
Thank you. As typically in past councils, the agenda would indicate when there's a change order, which is why I asked.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Manis?
I'd just like to point out that when I was growing up, we were talking about closing it, and that we're investing in the firehouse in Huntington Road is a huge, huge thing, and I'm really excited about it, that we're taking steps to make it even better. My neighbors will be very happy.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Manis. Any other discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes 10-0. Okay, now we're on 5.2.3, recommendation from the Ordinance Committee. This is the Ordinance Committee conducted a regularly scheduled meeting on March 28th, at which time the following ordinance was referred to Council with favorable recommendation. It's the ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Code of the Town of Stratford, Connecticut, to require that the Finance Director publish town revenue and expenditure reports and a list of non-payroll disbursements on the town's website on a monthly basis.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Chase?
I move that the second reading of the above entitled ordinance be dispensed with, as copies thereof have been received by all the council members, and the foregoing be and is hereby approved, effective 30 days from passage.
Okay,
Madam
thank
Chair,
you.
I second that.
Okay, first by Mr. Chase, second by Mr. Dumas. Discussion?
Madam Chairman, this is currently, Finance Director is currently doing this, but this puts it in the town code to ensure that it continues in the future. Proposal is made by Mr. Duma, and I would ask the council's support.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd also like to thank Representative Gresko, who was an original co-sponsor to this bill as well. I'd also like to point out that this was a promise made by Mayor Harkins shortly after he was first elected that he would do this. He never did it until we actually filed this resolution to try and force their hand to do it, which is why they were finally put up there. So I'm happy that this council may fulfill one of the mayor's good campaign promises.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion passes 10-0. Okay, so that is now the law. We now move to section 5.3, the town attorney's report. Mr. Hodgson?
The only item I have to report on is that I will be sending out a claims report tomorrow. So everyone will have that. And we do that more or less quarterly.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is 5.3.1, Shakespeare Theater, and the town attorney has requested executive session. Mr. Young.
I motion to go into executive session to discuss a contract for the lease of real estate with the Stratford Stage Group because publicity regarding such site and or the lease would adversely impact the price of such site and or the lease, and to discuss written communications received from the assistant town attorney regarding this lease of real estate, which written communications are privileged by the attorney-client relationship. Persons in attendance shall be the members of the council, the mayor, town attorney, assistant town attorneys, Leclerc, Floric, and Jackson.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second for that?
I have a question. Oh, wait.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Mr. Gresko seconds. Okay, discussion. Ms. Manis?
I don't know about you, but I take offense to the fact that, and I know it's just procedure, that everybody's not considered a client in this. I think there's a lot of people here who are waiting on the edges of their seats. I think the information has been shared at this point, information I didn't even know till today. And I think that going into executive session is inappropriate, and I think that we should be talking it out. I think the last time it was totally appropriate. At this point, I think there's no reason why we can't discuss everything here since it was laid out on the table, and all these people just want to know.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadim? No, Mr. Kadim, you're recognized.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councilwoman, Madam Chair. Firstly, I would like to say, echoing my esteemed Councilwoman across the way there, that Ms. Manis, that the fact that this has been so many years in the making, we need to start showing up like we really care. So we should have this discussion here, not an executive discussion, executive session.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dumas?
Madam Chair, first I have an inquiry for the town attorney or assistant town attorney through the chair. We had a FOI training the last month. One of the issues was raised is about the appropriate people for being in the executive session. This is an objection I've raised in previous meetings, but I was waiting until we got the training so that we could actually address it properly. And I believe Mr. Hennick indicated that additional people who go in there not to offer testimony aren't allowed in the executive session. So that portion of the motion, I think, is improper and violates FOIA. I don't know if Assistant Town Attorney Leclerc would have any insight on that based on the training that the council and yourself, you were present as well, finally received. What do you feel is improper? The assistant to the mayor and the CAO aren't permitted under FOIA to be in an executive session.
They were not in the motion to go into executive session.
The assistant to the mayor was.
No. It was the mayor, town attorney, assistant town attorney.
Okay, then I withdraw that inquiry. The second question is, how is this going to adversely impact the price? What's going to be discussed in executive session?
Good evening, everybody. The question was, the question you said, we just heard these things this evening. We didn't come to the resolution of this until this morning. So we didn't know what would be here and being told. So I didn't hear what was being said before I got here, but they said that they did in fact come and explain it. So the idea would be at this point, whether you want to go into executive session and discuss accepting what their proposals are, or counter-offering, or having a discussion beyond what they came and showed you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chase.
Yeah, and a question to Attorney Jackson. Their withdrawal of the Inn and the White House as part of the proposal, was that in writing?
Yes, sir.
Could you read it?
It was the email I got midday today.
Right. Well, we haven't seen it. Could you just read that to us for the record?
What's that?
I mean, the purpose of our request to go into executive session is that so we can give legal advice I'm sure if the council wants to come out of executive session to discuss whether ideas are good or bad, that would be your prerogative. But for us to provide legal advice, that we would want to be in executive session to do that.
I would concur with the town attorney, Madam Chairman. All I want to do is hear what the letter said. I don't think that would
Madam
interfere.
Chair, wait. Point of information that was requested.
Wait. You're not
is actually
recognized
what
yet.
was being. Well, I was recognized, and I'm still on my time with my point of information to the town attorney, and the question was, how would this adversely impact the price? Because that's one of the bases for going into executive session, and Assistant Attorney Jackson came up and said absolutely nothing about that. Mm-hmm. And that was a point of information that I was requesting. So how is this going to adversely impact the price? Go.
I don't think it's going to, I don't know that it's going to invert, well, I don't know whether it will impact the price or not. I think the question was whether or not we can give you advice on what, perhaps a counter proposal, whether you want to accept it, what they're proposing outright. So I don't think there's any real way of determining price at this point.
So I think that would be a concession that's not a valid reason for going into executive session.
Yeah, if there's no, I'll defer to Attorney Jackson on this. There's two reasons that we're in the motion to go into executive session. One was because publicity regarding the site or the lease would or could impact the price of this between the town and the successful bidder who we are negotiating with right now. And number two is because of written communications that Attorney Jackson wishes to disclose to this body in executive session. That's a proper reason, a second proper reason to go into executive session. That was the second portion of that motion. And based upon what was discussed or what was revealed earlier today from this bidder, maybe the second one is the only one that will apply at this point in time.
That probably is likely.
As a point of information, what is that document?
There's a written communication from the Assistant Town Attorney Jackson to this body that he would like to discuss regarding this lease. And that's a reason to go into executive session.
To discuss the document?
You're talking through the chair, right?
To discuss written communications from the Assistant Town Attorney regarding this topic. And that's a reason to go into executive session, and that was made in the motion.
Madam Chairman?
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Chase, then Ms. Manis, then Mr. Kadim.
Okay. I would agree with the town attorney's assessment, but before we go in, I don't think there'd be a problem in hearing what Attorney Watt wrote to Attorney Jackson on the withdrawal of the inn and the White House from the proposal.
I think what we have, though, is a motion to go into executive session that this body has to discuss and then vote on before we discuss other substantive issues with the Assistant Town Attorney. If the body does not go into executive session, someone could move this item and have a discussion with him. Otherwise, this has to be resolved first.
Madam Chairman, I move the question.
You move the question? Okay. All in favor of going into executive session?
No.
It's a tough decision. I'll pass.
Mr. Briscoe?
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Even if you go, I will not go with you. I will stay with the people because that's what you're supposed to do. No.
God.
Chair votes yes. I believe the motion, if I counted right, the motion fails. It's 5-5?
Mr. Harden.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. The motion, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, Madam Chair, as a point of procedure, a motion to go into executive session requires a 2/3 vote.
Okay, the motion fails.
I know, it was 5-5. It was 5-5.
Didn't pass.
3, 4.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I was more than willing and still am willing to go into executive session to discuss Mr. Jackson's ideas on this issue, but I would still like to hear what Attorney Watt wrote to Mr. Jackson concerning the removal of those two items from the contract.
Mr. Jackson?
Second.
The whole thing.
So Barry Knott sent me an email this afternoon. It says, I met with my clients to further discuss the town's request that SSG abandon the use of the White House and the commercial development of the theater property for an inn and restaurant in conjunction with the renovation.
Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. Could you speak into the microphone, please, so everybody can hear it? I know it's low.
Need a higher microphone. Further to the town's request, please be advised that SSG hereby withdraws its request to use the White House as part of the proposal and further withdraws its plan for the construction of an inn and restaurant on the site as part of the proposal. These concessions are being made to the town in good faith with the understanding that should the White House ever become available after being vacated by the Quinn Foundation, SSG be given the right of first refusal to occupy the building. Secondly, SSG must be given a right of first refusal in the future to engage in any commercial redevelopment of the theater grounds as may be proposed by the town. I believe these two concessions by SSG now resolve the outstanding issues with certain members of the town council having with the SSG proposal. I would appreciate if you would bring these concessions to the attention of the council in anticipation of tonight's meeting. Thank you for your courtesy.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
May we have copies of that, please?
Also, I had a question.
I'd like to take a recess.
I had a question, though, before we take
Okay,
this.
Mr. Kadim.
Okay? Yeah, now in the letter, it sounded like he's saying two things, not one thing. He said something like where he was saying where they have a right, if we don't accept them, they have a right to have that carte blanche to be accepted for the next bidding, which I don't think is a good thing. Because if we didn't want you now, we don't want you later. So it should be a reality that's clear. You understand what I'm saying? So that letter is like talking like a lawyer talks in two ways, okay? It's one thing. No is no. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to have a brief recess.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that?
I second.
Okay.
To repeat the motion.
Motion to recess.
Brief.
Brief recess. All in favor?
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Manis?
I said no.
Okay. The chair votes yes. Passes.
Okay.
Take a brief recess. I'd like to get you the copies of that.
Excuse me, for how long?
I'm sorry?
How long for the recess?
5 minutes, just to get you copies.
What would, I was on the prevailing side. I would make a motion to, what's the word? I forgot the word.
Your motion to reconsider. Please take your seats. We're going to get started. We don't want to be here at 1 in the morning.
I know, but I voted
Okay, what's in front of the council members is a printout of the email from Mr. Knott that Mr. Jackson just read. Ms. Manis.
Thank you. I have a question regarding third paragraph, second line, or end of the first line. Should the White House ever become available after being vacated by the Quinn Foundation, SSG would be the first right of refusal. Knowing what I know about administration here and knowing what I know about how I'm learning how laws work, I know that there is a 5-year lease that's been asked for already, and it was brought up at public forum. Who's to say that they can't be thrown out of this and not given a chance to continue to be in that property?
5-year lease for which building?
For the White House. So if the town decides to not renew their lease, then it, by law, would be vacated, correct?
If the town, this gets into the problem. I mean, I can give you some advice. The problem is if I can't really give you legal advice standing here. Arguably, if the Mighty Quinn Foundation ceases to use the White House, they're asking for an opportunity to use it. But that's a right of first refusal. That doesn't mean we have to give it to them.
Right. I guess my question is on whose Like if they decide not to use it, but what if the town makes that decision for them?
Okay.
We can have a conversation. I get into giving legal advice, which is very hard to do in a public session.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Mr. Chase.
Madam Chairman, I was on the prevailing side. I would like to reconsider my vote and move that we go into executive session. I realize that we're going to need 2/3, but there are a number of questions that need to be asked that, unfortunately, because this is going to probably, in all likelihood, wind up in court, I would feel more comfortable asking those questions in executive session.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Chase's motion to reconsider his the vote to go into executive session?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Okay, now discussion.
I'm sorry. It was actually before then, but according to the breakdown of this email, excuse me, thank you. According to the breakdown of this email, it seems for whatever reason, first things first, I just want to backtrack a little bit, and I pray that you guys see what I see. There was never any written contract with SSG, correct?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so since there was never no written, I'm just
But
trying
there's
to
a motion
clarify.
pending about going into executive
I
session.
understand that, but this is what the whole reason you sat it on the table, we have a moment to read it. I didn't get to respond. I'm trying to get clarification. I want to speak about this where I was given it at, not in the executive session. So what I'm saying is, since there never was a contract at all of this is null and void. We shouldn't even have to talk about anything with them. At all, anything. So I don't understand why everybody's so afraid about them suing. What they suing? Suing for what?
Mr. Duma, this is about the motion to go into executive
I understand, Madam Chair. 2 points. One I'll make quick because I've made it many times. I think it's completely inappropriate for us to go into executive session in these circumstances to discuss the public's business. This is a very important issue to many of the townspeople, and one of the criticisms of our predecessors was they went and did the town's business in a back room. I know that's the way our council chair seems to like to do things. It's not the way I like to do things. As a second point, that as we had already established, there were two bases for going into executive session. The price issue, we've established that doesn't exist, so we don't have that valid reason to go into executive session. The second was to review a privileged document. It is not to go in and discuss there. If we go in and discuss this issue in executive session, as was addressed during the Freedom of Information Commission, that would be an illegal executive session. And as I have been waiting until we got our training to start filing appeals when our council chair violates the Freedom of Information Act, but since we've had that training, I will now file an appeal, and I have a very successful track record winning those cases, and I'll tell you that I think that this is going to be an illegal executive session unless we're in there for literally 30 seconds to read a document.
Okay. Thank you for your threat, Mr. Duma. Is there any other
It's a promise.
discussion? Okay. Mr. Kadim?
I just want to say this, though, because I've been here 18 years, and my son is an actor. He's an artist. He's a performer. And he's been involved in so many different plays through the same organization that was running it with Tammy Trujanowski, in the spotlight for years, and also in his school, middle school, elementary school. This young man is very talented. My son, Amir Kadim, is very talented. And I've been waiting so long to see if we can get this theater open. And there's so many moving parts that have nothing to do with common sense and reality. There's so much silliness going on about this back and forth with this people, that's just ridiculous. Either you're fixing the building or you're not. You don't need no outside party to do that. You just redoing a school. You built a new school. You got money, do it. You keep raising our taxes, so let's straighten it out and keep it moving. Stop playing games.
Good.
Madam
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Ms. Santosa.
I would like to observe that this email is not a contract. I think Wally mentioned that before. However, there is a contract. I have a copy of 2 contracts, as a matter of fact. And if this is not put into a contract, it's useless, really.
Okay, Ms. Manis?
A very interesting thing just happened, and someone said to me a week ago, I want to know the truth. I want to look in your eyes and I want to look in their eyes, and I want to know the truth. And I'm going to get to the truth, and I can find the truth because I will if I have all the information. And I think that that's at the base of this. You can't know the truth unless you have all the information. I'm representative of people up here, but the people have a right to know the truth. And I think they have a right to the information that we're privy to. In this case especially, in the last time we went into executive session, there were things being negotiated. I don't see anything being negotiated here with regards to any of that anymore. I think it's just to put things away from the public, to create more secrecy, more of a lack of transparency, and even if it's not intentionally meant to collude something, it does. So I think that with the track record we've had and what I've heard people say, I think it's really important for people to know the truth. They have to be given all the details.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Chase.
Yeah. Before I make a motion, I need to respond to that. No one's trying to hide anything. My major concern is that we don't wind up in court spending thousands and thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money. That's my only concern. I'm being, if you will, Ms. Manis, cautious. I'd rather be cautious than sorry later on down the road when people start yelling, "What the hell did you do?" Madam Chairman, some further information has come to light from the town attorney. I withdraw my motion to go into executive session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as chairman, I'm going to ask, and I haven't asked this yet, of Mr. Chase if he would be willing to take over the position as chair for this discussion.
I'd love to.
Okay, very good. Oh, do you want to switch chairs? Okay.
There's a chair right over here. That's the normal First District chair, if you'd like to sit there, Madam Chair.
Well, I'm just showing this is temporary.
Bang the gavel on you.
It has a pillow.
I'm surprised you didn't take the mayor's chair.
Saddle up.
Bang the
No,
gavel.
you got to stop.
Yes.
Okay, we'll come to order.
Mr.
Ms. Dumas? I'm sorry. Mr. Ponte.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, because Stratford Stage Group seems to have no financial plan going forward, and it has had certainly the idea of withdrawing the inn seems to have come to light in November of 2015. It has had 6 months to prepare a financial plan. Further correspondence from Mr. Jackson, from Mr. Knott to Mr. Jackson, seemed to indicate that their financial plan, their alternative financial plan, was going to be some educational programs. There were no numbers provided for those educational programs. Because any credible proposal must have a financial plan, and their proposal, SSG's proposal, was hinged on having an inn that was going to be a very important part of their financial plan for sustaining the theater. Now that they've withdrawn that, they seem to have absolutely no financial plan for developing the theater. Therefore, I am making a motion to end negotiations with SSG.
Second.
I second it. Second.
Let her finish, please.
I am making a motion to end negotiations with SSG since they have not come to fruition and they have not shown to this council that they could credibly operate the theater. Further, they have also shown with their threats of suits that they would not be a reasonable business partner for the town, not one that we can trust. And further, they also showed in their proposal to the state that they misrepresented the state of affairs. I simply would like to stop negotiating with SSG.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Second.
I recognize Mr. Dumas as the second.
I seconded first, though, but you can recognize me.
I'm glad you're still friends. This is an important issue, so therefore I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
There's discussion.
No
Do we really want to have further discussion? All right, discussion. Is there further discussion, Ms. Manis?
I'm reminded of what happened with the WPCA. And the town is ripped apart right now, and it's not a time to laugh and rejoice. There's a lot of angry people, and there's a lot of upset people, and there's a lot of people in our town that are really hurt, and a lot of ideas that are really hurt. Whatever happens, you must come together. You must. Stratford will rise under Shakespeare, but only until you guys get it together, all together. And I told you before, I will tie you together if I have to, and make you love each other, because we're a family. There's no success in division. None. Please. When the dust settles, come together and make something great.
Thank you, Ms. Manis. Mr. Dumas.
I applaud Councilwoman DePonte on her motion. I appreciate it. Obviously, people know we disagree on a lot of things. I agree with her on this, and I thank her for making the motion, which I made at the last meeting. I think that it's pretty clear. We've had a year to work this out, and we haven't. Just any reputable attorney in town who is familiar with the land records here knows that there's a lawsuit coming from the boat club if we go into business with them. They're changing their plans at the last minute in terms of the hotel. But this is a group that has really shown that they're going to act in an irreputable manner in terms of the false claims they made in their DECD application. If that was federal money, they'd be subject to a False Claims Act lawsuit. And in terms of the statements they've been making in relation to the Mighty Quinn Foundation, which is one of the best things Stratford has going for it, that's just inappropriate. I think it's where we go from here is a good question, but I think the question is not SSG. The answer so far is not SSG.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Ms.
Yes. I would defer to Ms. Santizio.
I just wanted to congratulate Councilman DePonte. Well stated.
It's very refreshing to see that, your wisdom extends past the chair. So I'm so thankful that you took the time out to look at this seriously and recognize how to word it so that we can move forward and stop wasting time with these people, obviously, who don't have a plan. So I just want to say thank you very much for your courage and your movement. Thank you.
Mr. Harden?
Clearly, we've given the Stratford Theater Group our stipulations, and they came back to the table and they gave us their response. And as though it may dishearten people about the decision that was made, we have to do what was right and what is fair. And again, I'm sorry, but it just didn't go through, and I think we have to move forward from there. I was in support of it, and if the came back with the stipulations, but not with the whole that we received here. There were a lot of unanswered questions, and this is a box with no bottom. So you see the sides, but there's nothing to put. There's nowhere to put anything in there. There's no foundation. And I felt that if you want something to go through, you really have to be over-engineered. When I choose a Toyota or a BMW, I chose the BMW because it was over-engineered. They went beyond what I expected of them. And this new era, anyone who's coming to us and they want something from us, we expect that you're going to be over-engineered and have a go-to plan. So again, I'm sorry that it did not go through, but again, we have to move forward. And as we say in church, let the dead bury the dead, and we have to move forward.
Further discussion, Mr. Young.
I'd just like to say, as we said after public comments, I figured that a decision was going to be made tonight, and I think it's a good decision. Now, the question is where do we go from here, as was stated before. I think that we need to put out a new RFP or RFQ immediately and start getting people out there to review the process and find out who is going to take up the theater. And as I said, I want to get something done during this term. So that's what I would put my 2 cents in.
Mr. Duma?
Mr. Chairman, I have strictly a point of procedure to raise. For this motion to properly pass, we will need to waive the rules and amend the agenda to include this motion on the agenda for it to be properly noticed.
Thank you, Mr. Duma. To the town attorney, is he correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. DuPont.
2 things. One is when we talk about good faith negotiations, to me, part of the words good faith means that both sides will respond in a timely manner. I just want to point out that after our last council meeting, Attorney Jackson did contact Attorney Knott promptly, and 2 days after we met and after we set the conditions of no inn and no White House. A response was not received that was definite until today, on a work day, and it was expected that the council chair would be dealing with that during a work day today. They waited until the very last moment. To me, that's not good faith, that's bad faith. So that was one thing. The second thing I'd like to say is I'd like to waive the rules to add the motion onto the agenda.
Before we
Make a motion.
Okay, before we take up that motion, is there further discussion? Ms. Manis?
Through the chair, I had a question regarding what Ms. DePonte shared that came from the town attorney, and I would like to know where that information came from, why it wasn't shared with all of us. We're being brought into it like right now, amend the agenda, okay, make this happen, okay, now go. What? I'm not feeling like part of the process, and I'm sitting up here. I can't even imagine what people out there are doing. So what was the breakdown in communication? I understand the stuff with Barry Knott, but like that information you just shared about the financial plan?
Ms. Manis, excuse me. If this is a question, would you pose it to the town attorney, please?
Can I pose it to the secretary?
I'm asking you to pose it to the town attorney.
So when was that information shared with, was that just now that you shared that information with the chairman, that she was able to come out with that speech, and none of us knew anything about it, and all this information about the financial plan?
I believe the email from Attorney Knott was about 11:30 this morning, and we sent it, Attorney Jackson, help me out here, to Ms. DePonte. We sent it to Mr. Chase.
Yeah, and the second email, which was the response, came in at 3-something this afternoon, and I didn't forward that on.
Right.
I ran out of time.
And I was unaware of this motion.
Because I'm just really honest with you, it looked like a lot of grandstanding to me.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dumas asked for waiving the rules. I believe our council rules of procedure say that an item may be added to the council agenda with a vote of 7 council members at a regular scheduled meeting. You don't need to waive the rules. You could just say, can we add it to the agenda?
Dumas is correct in his statement about
as a point of procedure, the appropriate procedure for us to take in these circumstances is for the primary motion to be withdrawn by Councilor DePonte, and for us to make a motion to waive the rules and to amend the agenda, and then for when that occurs for Councilor DePonte or someone else, but she did an excellent job, so we'll let her do it again, to make that motion again, and then we could forego debate to a certain degree because we already did it, and then vote on the motion. So there'd be 2 votes. One to waive the rules and amend the agenda, and presuming that passes, then the Councilor DePonte could make her motion again, and then it would be properly before the council and would be comply with all the appropriate rules and statutes.
That's correct.
So let me clarify point of
Through the
information. Is
chair,
his
Ms.
motion to waive
Antezo?
the rules? His motion to waive the rules.
Done already.
Okay, did anybody
I
second?
haven't made the motion. I was merely making a point of procedure.
Okay.
We're still in discussion, Mitzi. Mr. Young.
Make a motion to waive the rules.
Pardon?
second.
As a point of
I-
procedure, Councilor DePonte needs to withdraw the motion.
Right.
Yeah, what has to happen, Councilor DePonte should withdraw her motion. At that point, there is no motion before the body. Then Mr. Dumas or someone else can move to suspend the rules to add this item to the agenda. And then Ms. Councilor DePonte or someone else can make the motion. But right now, you have a motion before the body.
So,
Excuse me, please. There was no second to her motion, so does she need to withdraw it?
Mr. Chairman, I seconded the motion.
There was a discussion between
We
Mr.
both
Dumas and
seconded
Mr.
the motion.
Kadim about who
And then
got
Mr. Kadim and I hugged afterwards.
Yeah, you forgot that, huh?
Okay. Clerk didn't get it, so the bottom line is Ms. DePonte.
I'd like to make a motion to, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Mr. Dumas,
Second, Wally Kadim.
Well, I withdraw my second, if that's your question.
that's the question. Very
Okay, I
good.
withdraw the second.
Okay.
He does, and I do too.
And you do too, that's fine. Ms. DePonte,
I'd like to waive the rules to add an item to the agenda.
is there a second?
I second that.
Mr. Dumas,
Second it. We second
Mr. Dumas seconds it.
Okay?
it. We second.
Okay. Let's have a little decorum. How's that?
Thank you.
Oh, shucks.
Mr. Ponte,
I'd like to make a motion. I'm making a motion to end negotiations.
Well, no, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Oh,
Monti, this is a non-debatable motion. It requires a two-third vote. You have to call for a vote on the motion to suspend the rules, moved by Mr. Ponte, seconded by Mr. Dumas.
okay, there's a motion before the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Motion passes 9-1.
Now it would be appropriate to take a motion from Councilor DePonte.
Ms. DePonte,
I'd like to make a motion to end negotiations with Stratford Stage Group on the basis that they do not seem to have a financial plan and that negotiations are making no progress.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dumas seconds that. Is there discussion? There being no discussion, we'll take, I'm sorry, Ms. Manis.
Once again, it's on the agenda. It wasn't properly noticed, and I know there are a lot of people, including those people in District 10, who have really strong feelings about this, and I wish they had had an opportunity to speak.
With that being said, is there any further discussion? Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say that I think taking this vote tonight, although I understand that there's strong public sentiment for it, I believe a major change has been made on the part of SSG, and I am not comfortable with having this vote tonight, and so I will be voting no.
Okay, further discussion? There being none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kadim. Mr. Kadim?
Yes, twice.
Mr. Harden.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Young. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gresco. Hey, he was sent down there.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Ms. Antezo.
Yes.
Mr. Ponte.
Yes?
Mr. Llewellyn.
No.
Ms. Manis. And the chair votes yes. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is Short Beach Restaurant, executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session? I'm sorry, hold on. Yes, Mr. Town Attorney.
Attorney Jackson has indicated there's no need to, number one, go into executive session, nor to further discuss this evening.
And, Mr. Chairman, as a point of procedure, Mr. Ponte should retake the chair.
Yeah, I know that. I'm trying not to litter. What's the matter with you?
In this one instance, I'll support her going back.
No, the town attorney, are you referring to Short Beach or to Shakespeare?
No, I'm referring to Short Beach. Attorney Jackson has indicated there's no need to go into executive session as there's this item will not furnish any business to the town council this evening.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have to go to executive session? I don't know. I missed what they said. What do they say about Short Beach?
You know what? The wave was coming.
Okay, the next section on the agenda is questions to the town attorney.
3 hours before.
Okay, Ms. Antezo.
Madam Chairman, I have a question for the town attorney. And it goes back to the posting situation. I completely agree with Attorney Florek that the council clerk should be the person to do the posting. However, if you look at the council rules of procedure, that's agenda V5, you will find out that 7 members may add an item to the agenda even though the chair has complete control over the agenda and can exclude things. But if 7 members decide to add an item to the agenda, they may do so. Now let's go look at town charter, 6.2.5 transfer of funds. The charter states that any resolution about the transfer of funds must be posted 7 days before the meeting. Nowhere does it say that the council chair can direct the council clerk not to post. And my question is, may the council clerk post a resolution even though the chair will not put it on the agenda?
The resolution you're talking about is specific to 6.2.5?
Yes, because that requires 7 days posting.
Well, my feeling is that there's nothing to post until it's on the agenda. Now, the council chair is in control of the agenda. If the council chair doesn't post something or doesn't add something to the agenda, this body can overrule the council chair by virtue of the provision that you quoted. But there's nothing to post.